Welcome to a video about the Trojan Pride Fix-It form. There are often questions about how to use a Fix-It form, when to use a Fix-It form. This video should help us all be on the same page on how to use it. The first thing really to think about is your mindset when you use the Fix-It form. The intent of the Fix-It form is to help educate students around behavior, to make positive decisions, and also to build relationships with students, as opposed to looking at it as a tool for consequences and punishments. Unwanted behaviors in our school fall into two different categories: minor problem behaviors and major problem behaviors. Minors are really those things that happen day to day that we help students make better choices. We would not write up every minor behavior problem, or we'll literally be doing fix-it forms all day long. Major problems are those that happen maybe one time but need to be dealt with because they're so major that this one incident causes some follow-up. Again, we won't be using a fix-it form for every minor problem behavior. You use a fix-it form for when the minor behavior problem is not being corrected with the intervention or the instruction you're providing to the student, and we need to start a data trail. Sometimes those minor problems happen in multiple settings, and the only way we'd know that is if we start a data trail and we're looking at how to support this student. Another thing to remember with minor problem behaviors is when you check that, you're saying, I am dealing with the behavior. We don't need the office to be involved at this point, but we do want to start the data trail because it's a consistent behavior. On the other hand, when you fill out a fix-it form for a major problem behavior, you are saying this is something that the office needs to deal with. That might be the principal, the social worker, the behavior specialist, but you're passing the student off to have the office deal with that behavior. Minor behaviors can become a major behavior. You'll notice in this box here there's chronic minor problem. That's when you've been working with a student, you've been doing fix-it forms for the minor behavior, and now it's so consistent that you're asking for support around that minor behavior. In this case, we ask that you mark the chronic minor behavior so we know it's a major problem for the office to deal with, but also mark the minor problem that's been happening. Once you've made the decision on whether to write a fix-it form or not, and whether it was a minor or a major, then start filling out the top pieces. The first section is really just who the student is, the date it happened, the time it happened, who the classroom teacher is. That may not be the person filling out the form. Example, maybe it is a specialist, but who is the classroom teacher? Also, circle the grade level the student is in and who the referring staff is. That's where you're putting your name down as the person creating the referral. One question that often arises is who should fill out the fix-it form? The intent is the person that witnessed the behavior or the person who had a student report the behavior to them. That's the person who should be filling out the fix-it form. Again, that fix-it form doesn't have to happen the minute the behavior happens, but we do ask by the end of the day that you follow up with a fix-it form. Sometimes the time can be nebulous. For example, it could be a minor behavior that's happened all day long and you're finally making the decision to do a minor problem. In that case, write the time that you actually made that decision. If it's 2 o'clock, write 2 o'clock, 2:30, write 2:30. Same with if it's a chronic minor problem that you're doing for a major, the time should be when you've made that decision. Because if you're doing the chronic minor, we know it's something that's been going on for quite a while. Please also mark the location where this behavior occurred. The PBIS team looks at our data monthly, and we look at where the behaviors are happening. And if one place in particular is having a lot of behaviors in the month, we wonder and we look at how do we support students better in that area. The next section, possible motivation, may or may not get filled out. This is really part of the educational piece. And usually behavior is to get something or to avoid something. For example, if there were a fight on the playground over a football, was the fight to get the football, in case you're trying to get an item? Or was the fight to get someone's attention? I'm showing you I'm the biggest and the baddest, so that's why I started the fight. This section is really the details of what happened. Mark who else was involved. Was it students? Was it no one? Was it staff? Please don't list any other students' names because when these go to families, we want to make sure we're honoring data privacy. And then the details, write what happened, what you witnessed, or what was reported to you. If it's a major, this is what we in the office will use to start the conversation with the student when we go to work with them. If you are filling out the fix-it form for a major problem behavior, your job is now done, and all you need to do is turn that form into the office so that we can deal with the behavior. If you've done a fix-it form for a minor behavior, then we'll talk next what happens in our action steps. So far, we've talked just about recording what happened. The top half is really about what happened. The bottom part, with the action taken, is really what we're doing as adults to support that student to make better choices next time. If you are filling out the fix-it form for a minor problem behavior, you should be saying under the action steps what you're doing in the instructional space. And by instructional space on a fix-it form, we're talking about wherever you're working with a student. That could be the classroom, it could be the cafeteria, it could be the playground. But what are you doing in that space to help the student with that minor problem behavior? You may also use the follow-up agreement as part of a minor problem behavior referral. This is where you really get to talk with the child, maybe make some agreements together, but it's really a chance to educate and build relationship. The more we talk with students, listen to them, share what we're thinking, it helps them learn and helps them trust. The office uses this section to record the consequences for the behavior when we work with them. Notice some things in here like suspension, sent home for the day, are only reserved for the office, and actually only the principal can make the decisions to take the learning away from a child. So sending home, suspending, only the principal can make those decisions because we're actually taking the child's access to education away. Sometimes staff ask, where is that line between being sent home, being suspended? And there really isn't a line. It's a very gray area. The point of the whole fix-it form and the consequences are to teach the behavior so it doesn't happen again. Sometimes a suspension is a very wrong thing to do and can actually cause more problems rather than less. The last question is, who actually signs the fix-it form? If you've made out an agreement with a student, it's very appropriate for you to have the student sign it, saying they agree to it. And that's something we can always go back to with them later. The other is which staff member signs it. The staff signature is really meant to say this fix-it form is complete and done. If you've done a minor fix-it form, you as the referring staff should be signing your name to it saying it's done and we're moving forward. If you've filled out the fix-it form for a major problem behavior, please leave the staff signature blank because one of the staff members in the office who've dealt with the behavior will then sign it after they have worked with the student, contacted for the family of any students who have been hurt, but that's our way of saying this is complete and done and we're moving forward. There's also a section for the parents to sign that they've received the fix-it form. We rarely get them back, but we leave that option there for the families that choose to do so. Now that the form is filled out, the question is, what do you do with it? If it was a minor problem behavior, go ahead and take the white sheet off the top and hand it into the office because it's completed and signed. The yellow sheet and the pink sheet you can give to the classroom teacher, and they will make sure that the yellow one goes home to the family, and the pink one the classroom teacher holds on to. If it is a major problem behavior, then please turn in all 3 copies because we in the office want to make sure that all 3 copies have our notes of the action taken and any sort of notes or follow-up agreements we may have done. At which point, then we will make sure that the classroom teacher gets the yellow copy to send home and the pink copy for themselves. If the referring staff is different than the classroom teacher, we will make a copy so that you can see that the referral you did was followed through with and how we followed through on it. There are some times where a fix-it form for major problem behavior isn't dealt with by the office, and that's if it's a student who has an IEP. Sometimes we do have case managers follow through because they're able to tie the fix-it form with whatever behavioral instruction they're doing in their classroom with their student. Another time the fix-it form for a major problem behavior isn't followed through in the office is if the student is on some sort of behavior plan. We may take the notes and add it to the behavior plan and destroy the fix-it form because the fix-it forms sometimes don't work for every student and we have some students on other plans. We'll do our best to communicate that, and we certainly don't expect that everyone knows all the students that are on specialized behavior plans. The last question that often comes up is, should we send all fix-it forms home? Sometimes teachers are worried about the consequences at home, or if there'll be some sort of punishment, or if we're worried about the student's safety. It actually is our job to send them home. If we are so concerned about a student's safety that we're worried about sending a fix-it form home, then we should be working with the county as mandatory reporters. You can talk to either the social worker or the principal, as they both are able to help you through that process and advise you along it. And that's the process for filling out and completing a fix-it form for both minor problem behaviors and major problem behaviors. We do talk about Trojan Pride with the students and what we expect from them in different parts of the building. Well, Trojan Pride for the adults around the fix-it form are about how we use it. And really it goes back to that mindset that we talked about at the beginning. The Fix-It form is intended to educate students and build relationships with them. It is inappropriate to use a Fix-It form as a threat or as a consequence or as a punishment. Those happen because of the Fix-It form, but it's in an attempt to educate the child and build a relationship with them. I know this video is nearly 10 minutes long. It shouldn't take that long to actually fill out a Fix-It form. And you don't need to fill it out when the behavior happens. If you need a student to go to the office to be worked with, let the office know why, so we're not guessing, because the students don't always tell us what actually happened. But we do ask that the Fix-It forms get filled out by the end of the day. We will follow through with behavior without one, but we will need that so we have that data trail and a way to communicate with families and also, again, educate the child and build that relationship with them. Thanks for making it to the end. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask, and we will do our best to support you with the Fix-It forms.